Looking for a place that does it all? Maldini's by the River serves mouth-watering breakfasts, pasta, pizzas and more, plus amazing coffee and cocktails. They hit the spot every single time. You're planning a special event? Well, their private function room and versatile restaurant are the perfect place for any celebration. Good food, good friends, good times, Maldini's. Welcome back to Life in 5, the show where we unpack 5 defining moments from some of the biggest names in sport, media and entertainment. I'm MG, and today's guest is best remembered for one of the greatest tackles in not just grand final history, but in history. But his story runs much deeper than that. A premiership winner, a respected commentator, and the son of a rugby league legend. It brings me great pleasure to introduce one of my great mates and a special guest today on Life in 5. I call him Shamrock. His name's Scotty Sattler. Sats, welcome, my man.
How you going, Rikishi?
You good? Big show. Come on, man. Tell him about the story. The hell, Shamrock.
So when I went to Penrith, you and Gerds and the guys were big into the WWF, and he started calling me Shamrock, and I didn't know why. Kenny Shamrock.
Ken Shamrock.
He said I looked like Kenny Shamrock. I'll take that.
Yeah.
And then I started trying to study a little bit more of you want to be called the Big Show, but so I started calling you Rikishi, the guy with the big ass. So
the Big Show. I remember one try celebration I actually done.
You
the
did
Big
too.
Show.
That was in 2000. Remember that I was doing the footy show, doing try celebrations.
That's right.
Yeah.
So these days you're doing, before you get onto your photos, you're doing a lot of media. You got your show up on the Gold Coast with Matty Rogers.
Yep.
You got a show down here on a Saturday morning with Andrew Webster. You loving it?
I love it. My last 2 years of my career, I just went to places like 2GB, and I just said to Ray Hadley and those guys, listen, I'll just give my time up for free. I just want to come and learn how to do the media. And I used to go in. We played on a Friday or Saturday. I'd go in on a Sunday with the continuous call team, and I just used to just basically give my time. And then the late, great Peter Flingos passed away in 2004, and Ray and Blocker and those guys were so distraught.
Yeah.
They couldn't go on air. And
I think I was with you then.
Yeah.
I did a bit with you then.
Yeah, so the guys at 2GB rang and said, listen, we need some fill-ins. And so the year after I retired, I started with Fox Sports, and I've been doing the media ever since. A lot of other things on the side, but doing a lot of media ever since, TV, radio, and I love it. I've been with SEN for 13 years now. And
wow.
I absolutely love it. To be able to, we're very lucky, aren't we? We get to talk about the game that we love so much.
Well, I'm very similar because I retired in 2000 and I had 3 kids under 5. And I went from good money down to what's going to happen, because I wanted to play one more year. But Simo said, no, mate, I'm doing you a favour by saying retire now. And I'm glad he did. So me and my wife Meegs, we sat together and I said, what do you reckon? She goes, just don't say no to anything. Every time something comes along,
It's good advice.
say yes. So I did a bit of labouring. I've done some stuff for Lubitz Savanovic. And then C91.3 come, and then Sunrise come, and all of a sudden we've got these ABC radio on the sideline, 2UE, 2GB. It's great.
You're right, and it's great advice from Meegs, because my dad said the same thing to me as well. I was lucky. When I retired, I started with the now Gold Coast Titans, but back then it was the Gold Coast NRL bid. So I retired in September, October. I started in their office in November of 2004, and so we started to put together what was now the Gold Coast Titans for a number of years. And so I was lucky to go into a role. But my dad said, just say no to nothing. Just keep turning up to things and you'll find your way through. But I think in the process, what it taught me is, you're in this bubble when you're a rugby league player, and then it taught you to just, get on common ground with a lot of people that you probably haven't played a huge role in your life in the past, because you're so tunnel vision.
Focused, yeah.
So I thought it gives you a really good life lesson if you can do some things outside of the game.
Well, you mentioned that, and before we get on to your first photo, I know I just haven't seen you for a while. I love chatting to you because every time I see you, it makes me happy. You were an inaugural part of that, or a major part of that inaugural bid for the Giants, and you put that team together. Now your name's getting mentioned for the Perth Bears as maybe someone who can put a roster together as well. Have you been sounded out by the Bears?
No, not officially. Not officially. I just had people throwing my name in the mix. I've been involved in 2 startup clubs, which is
Crushers?
No, well, as a player, the Crushers.
Oh, yeah.
But as an administrator with the Titans, I was the general manager there, and then with the Western Corridor bid for the latest 17th team as well, which the Dolphins ended up getting. So it's startups are, and you've been to the Western Reds. I mean, you know what a startup's like.
Yes.
You know, it's exciting and it's the shiny new toy. It's pretty easy to sell to people. I had no official approach, but keep getting my name thrown in the mix.
Well, we might both be there. Who knows? Your first photo. Let's have a look at it. You've got a picture of, I think that's you and your sister.
It is.
Tell us why this makes Scotty Sattler's 5 photos.
My sister Lisa, who's about 4 years older than me, she's we've been really close we've always been close. And but in saying that, I look at this photo and I look at you never know what's ahead of you. You think, what life are we going to lead here?
Wow.
And it's a really colourful, interesting life outside of rugby league. You know, at that age we don't know how big our dad is in rugby league.
What year was this about?
That's 1970. That'd be early 1972. So my dad's in his last year at South Sydney, but we don't know that. But we moved to Brisbane in 73. The QRL bought Dad and Tommy Bishop to try and strengthen the Queensland Rugby League up. So he went to the West Panthers for 2 years and then North Brisbane for a year. And I'm still too young to understand. But what I do know as I got older is that my dad never drank a drop of alcohol while he played.
Johnny Sattler never drank it?
No.
When he played?
When he played.
Wow.
But when we moved to Brisbane, he was a sales rep for Carlton United Breweries. And so the year after he retired, they asked him to go and run a pub for them in central Queensland, Gladstone. And they said, can you go and clean it up? And so we moved to Gladstone. He'd never drank. And then all of a sudden he's running a pub. But I look at this photo and I think, we had a lot of violence in our household. Not our household, our life.
Our life.
Not in our household. We had a great upbringing. We had beautiful parents who protected us and sort of, made sure we had everything that we could. But in saying that, we had a lot of violence around us. We lived in the pubs that we owned.
Your old man was one of the most famous hitmen of rugby league.
Exactly. So when I look at this photo, I think we don't know what we're in store for as kids, because my earliest recollection of being in the pubs was in Gladstone. I was about 5, I think I was, and him being out on the sidewalk while I'm on my bike. I'm just riding the bike around the pub, and I'm out the front of the sidewalk, and my dad's like fighting 3 guys. I'm going, what's going on here? And as you get older, you realise that your dad is a bit of a target. And then when you get older and you understand what life is a little bit about, is that we learned that my dad had a bounty on his head. So every Friday night, most Friday nights in the pubs we lived in, there would be someone that would come from another pub just full of alcohol to say, I'm just going to take him down. And pretty much every time they left with their tails between their legs. And so my sister and I, we'd sit on the couch on a Friday night, which is the busiest night, and we'd hear a glass smash or a raised voice. And we had this routine. We'd run out the back of the house, we'd slide down this pole, we'd run round the front of the public bar, and it'd just be on. Whoa. It was just a bloodbath. And
you see it.
We'd just sit there and it was like the only thing that was missing was some popcorn. We just sit there as kids and watch it, and it became part of our life.
Wow. What was your mum doing?
Well, Mum was always the one that was behind the bar saying, someone get in there, he's going to kill. She used to say, someone grab hold of John, he's going to kill someone.
Wow.
Now, there were times where Dad would go missing for 3 days because he thought he had killed someone. And I didn't learn that until later on in life. My sister would be told these stories, but to see, what he had to put up with, and for him to try and protect his business and his staff and all that sort of stuff, it was a pretty big awakening to what life threw. He always used to say to me, Scotty, doesn't matter whether it's the bricklayer or the barrister, you always got to be able to talk to both. Yeah. So growing up in pubs, we had this ability to go to the private bar as kids and sit down and talk to the barrister or the lawyer, and then we'd go down to the public bar and talk to the bricklayer and the blue collar worker. And so it gave us a really good introduction to life.
Well, I know one of your photos a little bit later is of you and your dad, and we'll get to that later. But this second photo is you, I'm going to say maybe C grade. Is it C grade? What is this photo?
No, this is my last year of high school.
So you're 18 here?
I'm 17.
What?
17 here. I'm the one in the middle. There's a kid with his elbow on my shoulder.
Yep.
His left eye.
Yep.
So this is Coomba State High School. And there's a reason why this means so much to me, this photo. The school was only 3 years old on the Gold Coast, and I was in year 12 here, and it wasn't known as a rugby league school at all. it was just a new school, and everyone from the area just started going to the school. So I lobbed on day one, and I knew the guy that's directly in front of me, Terry Wilson. He was the only guy that I really knew.
Yep.
And then we all of a sudden in the first 3 or 4 weeks, all these new guys started arriving, and we thought, oh, we haven't got a bad looking little footy team here. And so we put together this rugby league team, and Kira Park were the powerhouse in Australia.
Still are, aren't they?
Well, yeah, they are, and we just towed them up. We towed every team up in Queensland. We became the state champions. And there's a guy down that the guys that are crouching there down the front to my right.
Yep.
If you're looking at the photo to your left, Aboriginal guy.
Yep.
That's just
one laying down in front.
No, the one that's sort of
in the middle,
crouching down.
Yep.
His name was Robbie Hollingsworth. Still to this day, probably top 5 players I've ever seen ever. And he would have gone on and played 200 NRL games, but never drank, trained hard, just a great human. Moved back to Mount Isa, where he was from, became a police officer, works for corrective services now. Just built a really good life for himself. But we had this team, and the reason why this team's really important is that I never really wanted to play rugby league. Like I used to look at everyone that was playing rugby league, and I used to think they were gods. I thought they were so far away from you ever being there. And I don't know whether you were the same.
70s, especially 70s, like you've seen, I was a Manly fan and watching Graham Eady, and I talk about Graham Eady a lot on this podcast because he was my idol, and he's not doing too well at the minute, so we sent our best to the Wombat. But that Roosters side with Schubert and
Mark Harris and
Fairfax, with the long blonde hair, and you just watch them go, wow, look at these dudes.
My dad used to take me to Davies Park, which was South Magpies, which was Mal, Gary Belcher, Peter Jackson, and I used to go and watch them and think, these guys are like gods. How far away would you be as a player to get to that level? And that was BRL. And anyway, but this is the first year when...
What colour are you? Because it's the black and white.
It's yellow and green.
Yellow and green.
Yeah, yellow and green. So that's the old Seagull Stadium, which you would have played at the days.
I did. I played Seagulls,
Yeah, so we just won the state championship as the best team in Queensland, and we just missed out and come to Sydney to be remember the Commonwealth Bank Cup?
Yes.
Yeah, and so winning this, but we had these 2 coaches, and the reason why this is significant is because this is the first year I made the Queensland Schoolboys this year. I was actually billeted with Freddie. He was New South Wales, we were Queensland, the Australian Championships.
You came down to Penrith?
Yeah. And so...
Cambridge Park, I think.
It was Cambridge Park, yeah. And so we had these 2 coaches, Mr. Rainey and Mr. Herlihy, and they were the first ones that actually made me believe that I could actually go on and probably have a career in rugby league.
Were you a forward here or back?
I was a lock forward, yeah. And so they said to me, you made the Queensland Schoolboys, you're one of very few that can do that, so you've now got to start focusing. So they're the one that put me on the pathway to, you've got to train, you've got to eat healthy, don't drink a lot of alcohol, be really disciplined. But Mr. Rainey he was sort of like to us, he was like, before we even understood who Jack Gibson and the influence he had on players, he was like our Jack Gibson.
Wow, yeah.
Or Wayne Bennett. He made sure you're a really good person. And then Mr. Hurley, he was the disciplinarian, and we went through and had success. And this is why it's significant, because I think this team here sort of set me on the path of, hey, maybe I can be a rugby league player.
No doubt. So how long after this were you in a system?
So the year after this, most of that team went on and played under 19s at the club called Runaway Bay. We went through the season undefeated. And then that next year, 1991, was the first year the Gold Coast Seagulls had gone from the Giants to the Seagulls. They had their first President's Cup team in the Sydney competition. So that was the first system I got into, yeah.
Wow. Everyone's got a story, haven't they? I mean, it's like that. Some blokes in that team are going, Sats put that photo up in that podcast.
Yeah, and I look at that photo and I look at 4 or 5 guys there that could have been 100 gamers.
So there was none besides you in that team?
Yeah.
You were the only one?
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
Photo number 3, obviously this is your pride and joy.
Yep.
Your mum, your partner and your kids. Tell us about why this is so special to you.
Kevin Campion over the right shoulder of my daughter.
Oh, is
there.
it really?
Yeah, that's Camp. That's at my 50th. And Tony Hearn, you can see his bald head behind there, former Maroon front rower. So my daughter, Olivia.
He was in 95?
95.
Yes,
yeah.
he was.
He headbutted Spud and got 8 weeks. Cost him an Australian jersey.
Wow.
Yeah. I got my daughter, Olivia, there. She's now 23 at the time of filming here.
Yep.
myself there, my mum who's 80.
80?
Yeah. My beautiful wife, Beck, just there, and also Jack on the right.
Jackie, a Penrith boy.
Yeah, so he works at Penrith, and he works in the football office there, and he's been a Penrith fan his whole life. He loves it. He's living the dream. My daughter's a school teacher. Why this is significant, like you, is that family's family. We lost my dad a couple of years ago, and Mum has always been the matriarch of the family. She just gives everything, all her time to everyone else, her grandkids, her kids, everyone else that needs help. My mum has always sacrificed everything for everyone. So she's a powerhouse. My two kids, who are the light of my life, going to get a little bit emotional here. I'm sorry. I didn't see them. I didn't get to have them for 4 years, and their mother and I we've got a really good connection now. Yeah. But for a lot of years I didn't get to see them. I didn't get to spend time with them, and so I lost a lot of their really important years. I used to go to their sports every week and watch them, and being able to see them but not actually be able to go and
Cover them.
Yeah, it was really tough. But I fought through it, and I came out the other side, and then we've got just an amazing relationship now. They both got to about sort of 16 and 17, and they wanted to reconnect, and they took it upon themselves, which is great. And
you had both of them in Penrith, didn't you?
No, Jack was born on the Gold Coast just before we came to Penrith.
Okay.
And then Livy was born in Penrith, in Nepean.
Nepean.
And then my wife, Beck, who was just...
How long have you been married to Beck for?
So we've been together, what is it now, 2025. We've been together 17 years. Yeah, so if it's not for her, I'm not around. I'm not saying I would have taken the easy option, but I just probably would have packed my bags and would have probably moved overseas or something like that. I just through that period when I wasn't spending a lot of time with the kids, and I'm not blaming anyone for it. It's life. It's just life, And
a lot of people are listening to this or watching this going,
yeah, and
I know what you're talking about.
The kids are young and they don't know any different. But she was the one that, when I'd be laying in the fetal position, she'd get me up, she'd get me dressed, and she'd push me out the door again. She'd go, off you go and face the life. And so, yeah, she's a champion. Like anyone who knows her will tell you, she's the most selfless person ever.
Did you have a tad of depression? Did you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was I used to see psychologists, had a really good psychologist on the Gold Coast that put me on medication at one stage as well, which I didn't feel great about, and I just replaced it with exercise.
And that's what you've always been renowned for.
Yeah, so I just so I did. I went through a really tough patch, but she just kept shoveling me back up again and pushing me back out, and she's a big reason why the kids are sort of, we've got this great connection as well, and because she's the one that said you just can't give up, and then she was the one that sort of built the bridge between myself and their mum as well.
Wow, that's special.
And, yeah, so she's a pretty special person. So yeah, that photo, for obvious reasons, everyone's going to say their family, and everyone's got their own journey.
Are you close to being? They got partners. You close to being a pop?
Jack, no. His greatest love is rugby league.
Yeah, he loves it, doesn't he?
Yeah, he just lives and breathes it.
Yeah.
And Olivia, she's had a long-term partner, and so I'm a little bit hard on him. But he's a good kid. He works in the mines.
Because you always see it as you we're getting older, we're getting like 18, 19, you watch your dad with your sister's boyfriends, and you go, I wonder if I'll be like that. Well, I've got 3 daughters.
Is it different the boyfriends to your daughters than it is your girlfriends to your sons?
Definitely.
Yeah?
Yeah, definitely. We're boys.
You're a little bit more cautious.
We're boys.
Yeah.
But also
because we've seen rat bags.
But we don't come with any like hidden. Everyone knows us.
Yeah.
So they know I'm not going out. That's Mark Guy's daughter. No way.
Yeah.
Well, that's Scotty Sattler's daughter. No, I'm not going near her. So sometimes it keeps the wolves at bay, but now they're my best mates.
Yeah.
Because I go through that, when they were 15, 16, and I was probably a little bit too hard on my daughters, and where Meg should have, she was the Mark. You're a big ogre. Take it easy on them. And now they've,
Well, you're taking your daughter's hand and putting it in theirs, aren't you? I actually have a go at my daughter's partner, Isaac, because when my father passed away, So they were meant to get together like a year or so beforehand, but he didn't turn up to this apparently this meeting or date or whatever it was. And so when my father passed away, he used the death of my father to get closer to my daughter, and I remind him every week. So he messaged me and says, "Sorry to hear about your pop, but hey, listen, I'm coming down to Brisbane soon, Gold Coast. Like, if you want to grab a coffee." So I remind him. He used the death of my father to get to the pants of my daughter. You sicko.
It's life, but isn't it? Yeah. It's fucking life, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
Well, here's the man. He's the man we're speaking about. And if anyone who's too young to know who Johnny Sattler was, I say just Google him, because this bloke was. I met him on many occasions.
He used to come down quite a bit, didn't he?
Yeah, him, and I everyone knew about him. Folklore about your dad was, up there on the podium as one of the toughest men that ever played the game. And when you meet him and see how eloquently he speaks and how gentle he was as a man, brings a bloody tear to your eye. So this obviously is. When was his photo? What was it?
This was 2 days before the 2021 grand final. So Penrith are playing South.
Yes.
And I've got my jersey. That was the jersey that wore in the grand final, that one there on the left. And that's a South Sydney jacket, of course. And so because they were playing each other, this is a photo I just took and just for myself.
This was in the media, wasn't it?
No, well, actually, I just put it up on Instagram for myself.
Okay. That's where I might have seen it.
Yeah, battle lines have been drawn and but this was he passed away in 2003, and so it was a couple of years before he passed away. Yeah,
2023.
2023. Yeah, he's a couple of years before he passed away, and this is in the home that he was living in. And I mean, he wasn't he didn't have all these faculties here. Like he bluffed his way through life. I used to go
dementia.
Yeah. I used to go and see him, and he didn't know who I was at first, but after about probably a couple of minutes, he'd realised that he twigged. He goes, "Oh, this is Scott," and then we talk rugby. We talked rugby league whenever we were all together. That's what he loved talking about, and it's hard to look at a guy like that and feel as though that he would have had he's such a small man, but Bobby McCarthy used to always say he looked like the choir boy, but he played like the devil. He said I'd see him. A lot of people remember him for his heroics and how tough he was.
The broken jaw.
But people forget about how actually good of a rugby league player he was. He was voted as one of the top 5 greatest captains of all time as well. They played in 6 grand finals, won 4 of them. And Bobby McCarthy used to say, he's the greatest protector of his teammates. And when anything happened to Bobby McCarthy or Ron Coote, who were the superstars, Lurch and John Sattler would say, he'd say, your dad and Lurch would say, listen, you keep doing what you're doing. We'll sort out these other guys that are trying to bring you down. He said, he'd do some terrible things to people on the field. And he said, but then after the game, you'd see him walking an old lady across Chalmers Street to go to the Leagues Club. So yeah.
Were you born when he had the broken jaw in the grand final?
No, a year later. Yeah.
So what was his recollection of that when that happened? What did he?
He's got some great stories about that. He said he got word throughout the week because Ronnie Willie was the coach of Manly. Yeah. Did you have Ronnie at Penrith?
I had Ronnie at Panthers.
And he was all about...
I was 18, 19 and he said, I want you to be the bloke that everyone on the other side's scared of.
Yeah.
He made me wear like big platform shoes so I'd walk around like I was 7 foot. And
really?
He created a monster.
Wow.
Yeah, literally.
Well, he created a monster that day as well with John Bucknell because basically Dad had got word a couple of days before that apparently they're going to try and take him out. And Ronnie Willie had sent word that, if you take him out, he's sort of the soul of the team that will get over the top of them. So 2 minutes into the game, he was just running up in defence. And you've seen the footage. And Johnny Bucknell just, he King hits him from the side.
He's a big bloke,
About 6'3", yeah. Sleepy Bucknell, they call him. King hit him and he said, I felt it break in 2 places. He said, I felt one side of my mouth just drop. And you see the footage again. He turns around, grabs him in like a headlock, and he sort of like neck snaps him and drops him to the ground. He said, I felt it break on the other 2 sides as well. So he's broken in 4. This clean breakthrough there, and through there as well. And so he said during the game, he said I could push it into place and hold it together. And he said it didn't hurt that much. It was uncomfortable. You look at some of the footage, John Pogo Morgan comes around this tackle, just tries to look for his head and goes crash and hits him. And you see all the jaw fall apart. And so he said, half-time, Clive Churchill said to him, I've got to bring you off, Sats. He said, you're not bringing me off. He said, no, we've got to take you off, mate, for your own safety. He said, no, you're not taking me off. Anyway, he ran out onto the field before the rest of the team because he's running away from Clive and the trainers from stopping him from leaving the dressing shed. So he ran back out into the field and the rest of the team sort of came out 30 seconds later. He finished the game, went up and they were picking the World Cup squad that night, and Dad was set to captain the World Cup squad that year in 70. And so he's sitting in the Singing Cricket Ground, which you've been at, and there's a separate bath area. And he closed the door and he's sitting on the edge of the bathtub and he said, I was in a lot of pain. And Clive walked into the room and said, Sats, they've got to file their stories. They've got to come in and they've heard about what's happened. They've got to come in and see you. So he pushed his jaw back into place, clenched his teeth, and he's just sitting there with a towel on, and all the journos came in and said, Sats, we've heard you've broken your jaw. He went, nah, and as he went like that, his whole jaw fell apart, and half the journos half-point fainted. And so they took him to the hospital.
Horrific.
They wired him up. And Mum used to say during the night, you know when you get night terrors? You know when you go like that?
Yeah.
So Mum used to said during the night, she'd have to go next door, knock on the neighbours, say, can you come and look after the kids? John's done it again. And so what he used to do, he used to lay in bed at night and he used to have night terrors and go, he used to rip all the wiring through his gums.
Wow.
So they'd have to rush him to hospital and rewire his jaw. And that happened a few times. And so the following year, 72, the first game they played against Manly. And you know when you got an injury, you got to try and get back on the horse really quickly. Terry Randall, long hair.
Beagle.
He said as he was getting up to play the ball, Dad said, I grabbed a handful of his hair in a trial and I picked him up off the ground. Like he's this young kid. Like he picked him up off the ground. As he picked him up off the ground, he said Terry Randall hit him with the greatest uppercut, hit him right on the button on the chin.
On the jaw.
And he said nothing happened. And he went, mate, it was the best thing that could have happened to me. Yeah.
Gee, you're talking about two tough men in one sentence.
71, that was 71, yeah.
Terry Randall, I mean,
Yeah.
wow. Talk about your dad all day. And honestly, for those younger listeners and viewers, Google Johnny Sattler because he was one of the best blokes they've ever played. And his ashes at Redfern Oval?
Yeah, so we spread some on Redfern Oval. We said spread some on Heffron Park, which they're new. And that's Blake Solly and Mark Ellison and those guys. They wanted to do that. I got some at home as well. The one great thing I loved about, I wanted Dad to go. Like it was just watching him the way that he was cruel. Terrible.
It was cruel.
It was cruel, but to be there, I got a phone call saying, you better get up here, Dad's not great. And I went into the room and it looked like he'd had a stroke of some and he was breathing, heavy breathing, what they call the death rattles. And I was holding his hand. I said, Dad, just go to sleep. Just go to sleep. And he fell asleep about 45 seconds later.
That's it.
It's like he was waiting for me to get there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was glad I was there for it.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Well, this is it, Sats. Photo number 5, mate. This is the Peace Resistance. This is the 2003 photo of you and your boys lifting the Holy Grail. Well, it was a while in between drinks because 91 we did it and then we had to wait till 12 years later for this team that kind of weren't in the running until halfway through the year and all of a sudden you just clicked.
It's where we came from. 2001, which is the first year of your retirement, we got the wooden spoon. 2002, we weren't much better. And then we got beaten in round 1 of 2003. We got smashed by Melbourne round 2. And then we beat the Roosters, who are the premiers, in the round 3, 23-22. And we thought, we've had one win. But then our first 5 rounds, so round 6, we're going over the Warriors to play over there.
That's a hard trip.
It's terrible. And, they were the runners-up from the year before. We were paying 101-1 to win the comp.
Whoa.
And so we beat them over there and beat them easy. I remember going back on the bus back to the hotel and I was talking with Gerds and Ryan Girdler and I said, I reckon we can make the 8. Do you reckon we can make the 8? He goes, yeah, with a win like that tonight and beating the Roosters, I think we can, and then we got to a stage where we won 8 in a row and then we got to the end of the season and we won the minor premiership. And then we got to the grand final. We're still paying $3.50 to win the comp, even though we were the minor premiers. And
in a 2-horse race.
In a 2-horse race. And then what stands out to me with this team, and I go back to your year in 91, you got some guys that have had experience then you've got a group of these young locals who just
young locals. That's a key.
Just knew how to win. They were used to winning in junior reps coming through. Yeah, your Lewises and Rooneys and Swains and Waterhouses and Joel Clinton and Lukey Lewis and we only had a couple of new players into that team there, which was Preston and Benny Ross were the only two that came out, and Johnny Lang was just this, had no game plan. We had a game plan called Reese.
What's the Reese plan?
Give the ball to Reese and just let him run around people.
Sugar.
Just give the ball to Reese. So,
well, that's when you've got a coach like that, and I've heard Gowie talk about it. I've heard other people, Tony Puletua. He said he just made you feel good. He said, like, even though you might take this the wrong way that he had no game plan, that's how simple it was. He'd give it all to us. He put all the power in us, and we took that.
Do you know Tony Puletua, who we all knew potentially could be the most destructive back row on the comp, and he had to find there was something else in his game he had to find, or in his life he had to find. And Johnny Lang was it. Roy Simmons sort of created him and built him up, and then Langy was the guy that made him feel good about himself, where when he came out there, smart man, when you talk about man management, he said to Tony Puletua, words to the effect, you're one of the reasons why I'm coming out of the coach. I hated coaching against you. You're going to be a dream to coach. You're such a great athlete. And for the next 3 years, Tony Puletua was unstoppable.
Terrorised him and Joe Nullivay on the back row. It was one of them. So what do you remember mostly about this photo once it's all done? I mean, usually this is pretty rare because you've only got the players and the coach. Usually there's trainers, there's sponsors, there's
kids, partners.
There's just you guys.
I sort of miss that a little bit. There's got to be that sacred time where, like a dressing shed now, there's like 1,000 people in dressing sheds, and it's a really special time, that one little moment there, isn't it? When there's no one else around. It's the first thing when I look at that is I look at that and say you had to go through a shitload of bumpy roads, like being at the Gold Coast twice, Gold Coast Seagulls and the Gold Coast Chargers, and Gold Coast Chargers got kicked out of the comp. And so I go to Penrith, and then I was at the Crushers, got kicked out of the comp, and then go to Penrith, and I love everything about the region, the community.
Well, you blended in well for an outsider. That's when I was there. What did you get there?
End of 98 for 99.
Yeah, so my first year back from Perth was 98, and as soon as you arrived, you were one of us. You could tell straight away that you bought into everything. You loved being social. You loved to laugh. You loved to take the piss like we all did, and that was part of it.
Yeah.
It's a very secluded area, Penrith.
Yeah, so I look at, you're right, and I look at that and I go, I just love the region. I love the club, and I look at that group of players there and I think individually, you went through some bumpy roads and barriers to get to that day. And then as a team, I think, it's a group of veterans and mostly local kids that are, that have come through the ranks at the Panthers and to win a premiership like in your first and second year of first grade.
Good.
It's just a great blend of experience and youth and just a great bunch of guys. We get together every Friday of grand final year.
Yeah,
every year. Yeah.
The infamous Sammy, producer. I need a photo, mate. So it's past that here, buddy. Oh. So everyone's got their moment in life. I've got mine here with the King.
Yep.
Now this is yours. This is your moment with the grand final. This is, and I'm honest with myself. I go, without Wally, I'm probably not even sitting here.
We've all got a moment in our life.
And this is yours.
Yeah.
Talk us through the Todd Byrne tackle.
It probably represents what I just spoke about. Like, I was the sort of guy that I loved to train.
Yeah, you were very
I loved
fit.
to run. I never liked to really sort of give anyone a bit of an inch. But Johnny Lang sort of prepared me for it 2 years before. When I had my first meeting with him in the pre-season of 2002, his first year, he said to me, Sats, I want you to play like an old school lock, which is...
Cover defence.
Well, he said, when the halves go down, jump in and pass the ball, which I used to like to do anyway. If the kickers go down, I want you to do a lot of kicking. Yeah.
Left footer.
Left footer, yeah, you're right. And then he said, but on tackle 5, if you're on the other side of the ruck and the ball's going to be kicked.
Get over there.
He said, I just want you to start heading in behind just in case. He used to always say, just in case you needed. So every training session for 2 years, I did that at training, and I did it in every game as well. And there was a couple of times during the year, actually, I remember against...
So yours is a bit like Stephen Bradbury. Everyone talks to Bradbury about that thing. He goes, I prepared for this.
Yeah.
I'd done this for 14 years, and I knew in that final that they were going to go hard. So you're saying that this was not planned for on that night, but you had that in you for the last couple of years.
Yeah, during the year we played against the Warriors, and I remember I did the same thing. I sort of started heading in behind, and Stacey Jones took off, and I was there because I'd sort of got a head start on him, and so I just did that every training session, every game, and then that was my last game for Penrith. Wow. I mean, because I was told during the year that, listen, we can't fit you on the salary cap, you got to go. Even though I was told at the start of the year that if you're playing okay by the middle of the year, we're going to have another contract for you. And I made Origin that year, so it means you're going okay.
You did.
And then to be told that, no, actually, we can't offer you anything.
It's a bad game. It's a business. Yeah. It's a bad business.
And when you're a player, you don't understand it. Later on in life, you go, probably they made the right decision because, you're 31. But, so that was my last game. So
what a way. For
the first meeting with Langy, and then to do it every training session, every game, and then for it to be my last game for Penrith, to be able to, I've never looked at it as an individual moment. I know everyone would say that about their moments, but
because the game was a lot of things, but Pritis' performance and the whole team's performance really. But that moment was when I think this was a turning point of the game.
Well, 6-6, and but in saying that, I look at this and I go, because it was my last game, I'll take a real selfish view of it from this point of view. Is that I love it that I can, go out to Penrith and. The
treasured.
Well, the fans sort of say, hey, Sats, how are you? And they sort of, I love that part of the game.
And it's so ironic that both you and your dad have had them moments. Like your old man with a broken jaw in a grand final and you in a grand final. Like it's goosebumps.
It's pretty freaky, isn't it?
Isn't it?
There was a moment after the game, actually, when I went and grabbed Dad out of the stand where he was just sitting just behind where all the reserves and that sit, where all the families sit. And I just went and grabbed him. I said, do you want to come in the dressing shed? He said, no, that's your moment. Because remember, he played back in the day. There was just no one in the dressing sheds. It was the team and the coaches. That's it. So I said, no, that's your moment. I said, no, come on. And we were walking up that, how far it is from Stadium Australia, our core stadium, to the dressing shed. I was walking with him and it was just him and I, and there was no one else. Wish I got a photo of it. Just him and I. He put his arm around me. He said, what you guys have done tonight, no one can ever take it off you. Mm-hmm. And he just said, but that moment to be able to walk into the sunset now after your last game for the club, he said, you'll treasure that moment for the rest of your life. And so that's that one moment that when I think about my dad, there's that one moment that I've captured this image in my mind of him and I just walking along that long race.
That's all you need, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
all you need.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, them 5 photos were unbelievable, and I knew you got your story is awesome. I know your story is fantastic. I wanted to share with people, so thanks for the photos. Now we get down to some nitty gritty.
Yep.
Give me 5. We're going to ask you your favourite things and see what the first answer is that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Number one's kind of encompassing. Your favourite band and song.
Favourite band, Australian Crawl. Reckless.
Wow.
Easy. Yeah.
Really?
Oh, I reckon
we're filming this now in Manly. They're Manly boys.
I know.
Australian Crawl.
We
just couldn't understand what he was saying.
I know.
But that was a part of it.
I know. I reckon I've seen James Rain live.
Oh, he's awesome.
I don't know, 10 times.
Yeah.
He Australian Crawl, one of the pubs we owned was a big band hall, and in the pub. And Australian Crawl and the Hoodoos and the Angels, they played there so many times. And Australian Crawl were always the ones that stood out because they treated all the staff with really good respect as well. Go. Yeah. So, but their music's just awesome. Let me tell you about 2 young lovers that live down the coast. Well, great band. So these days we're a sport for TV shows because of the reels. We can, everything's streamed. And what's your all-time favourite TV show? I'm pretty boring here. Everyone's Seinfeld, but if I could watch Seinfeld every day.
Yep.
Still today, if I've got nothing to watch, I'll just try Seinfeld.
You're probably about the 5th.
It's the Moops.
Who's your favourite character in the show? Who comes on, you You just can't stop laughing at them.
See, I'm a
George?
I'm a George fan. Yeah, I love it. So
Tom Kramer.
Well, you are a bit of Kramer.
I'm a bit of Kramer. He walks in.
Tall and kooky.
Jerry.
Yeah. And the twitch. But I'm a mad British Office fan. Love The Office.
Ricky Gervais.
Oh, just
So my young bloke
So
Logan, he
awkward.
watches the American one and just swears by it. And I said, Ricky Gervais.
Yeah.
He's the epitome of irony.
Exactly.
It's just how he does shit.
I know. And the most serious show that I love the most is one called The Shield. Yeah,
I've heard of that.
Yes,
Yeah.
there's a cop show called The Wire.
Yep.
Everyone sort of raves about The Wire, but The Shield is one that sort of came out at the same time. Yeah,
Have you happened to see Mobland with?
Unbelievable.
Isn't that a good
Yeah.
series? Come on for season 2. Obviously, rugby league's your number one sport. Your favourite other sport?
Boxing. Yeah, my dad was really heavy into boxing. Very close. He was very close for a lot of years with Johnny Lewis. And funny story, actually, they're at the State of Origin one night. My dad, Johnny Lewis and Jeff were there as well, and they just sort of ran into each other after the game. They were walking from
That's a good threesome.
Lang Park, and Johnny Lewis had a Blues jersey on, and this Queensland fan, not knowing who Johnny was, just crash tackled him. And Jeff was a world champion at this stage.
What?
And Jeff, because Johnny was seen as a father, he went in to attack this guy, and Dad grabbed Jeff and said, "Jeff, you can't be seen to be doing this.
Let me.
Let me sort this out." So he raised me on the history of boxing, like Dave Sands, Vic Patrick, Tony Mundine, Yaki Lopez, all these sort of fighters. He raised me in the boxing game as well. I love everything about boxing. Yeah,
You always have, haven't you?
Yep.
Yeah, you've always been a. Do you like UFC?
I love the UFC. But boxing, I just love the tradition of boxing. If I wasn't a rugby league commentator or hosting a show, I'd love to be thinking you'd be doing something in boxing.
Well, you've got your purple belt in karate.
Jiu-jitsu.
Jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. You want to strangle me with it?
I sent him a text through the week saying we said something. We always talk to each other, talk shit to each other. And I said, that purple belt of yours, I want to get my brown belt. I want to wrap your fucking head in it. You fucking devil. I love it. You there? Oh, shit. How ya?
Can't get away with anything.
What's the most famous name in your phone contacts?
Russell Crowe.
Wow, Rusty.
Yeah, Russell Crowe.
That's up there.
Yep. And Russell Crowe and James Rain. Yeah.
Mine's Dana White.
Really?
Yeah, Dana White. I tried to get Joe Rogan's when I was working at Triple M.
That'd be like gold, wouldn't it?
He
Joe
came
Rogan's.
in. Dana came in for a promotion. I went, well, I've done a one-on-one with him. And he said, yeah, take my number and send me a text when you want tickets. And
Good dude.
champion dude.
Yeah.
Great bloke. Yeah. Okay, you've done something wrong. You fucked up.
Yeah.
You're in jail
Yeah.
for life. You're on death row.
Death row.
What's your death row meal?
Who have I murdered?
Who do you want to murder?
I've got someone I'd love to mention. But death row meal. Big rump steak.
Yep.
Rare.
Rare.
With a kilo of pork ribs. Big fat pub chips.
Oh, yeah.
And
Did you have a gravy?
No.
No gravy?
No gravy.
No.
No.
What the hell?
No gravy.
What, just salt and pepper?
Yeah, pepper, no salt. Bad for cellulite. And just pepper, overdose of pepper.
Yeah, okay.
And then I'd have a chocolate lava cake for dessert.
Yeah. What about wine, red, white, beer?
No, it'd be a Sailor Jerry's and dry.
What's that?
Spiced rum.
Really?
Yeah.
You're Queenslanders in your rum. you just can't handle it, man. Well, you just can handle it. When you try and give us a rum down here, we go, yeah. Scotty Sattler, mate, thank you so much. You've been fantastic.
No, thanks, G. This is awesome.
Thanks for finding the time to come and sit down with us. That's been your Life in 5. Also,
Yeah.
on behalf of Lily Pilly Wines, a little
Beautiful.
Sauv Blanc and a Shiraz for you, my man.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, guys.
Love you.
Appreciate it. Love you, mate. Thanks, guys.